Today I am coming at you with a different type of video, and I'm just going to give a trigger warning here that we talk about binge eating, we talk about body image, and we talk about how that relates to us as a entrepreneur. So if those are all things that you are still struggling with, please do not continue to listen. But I wanted to talk about this topic because I think that when we are oftentimes looking at business owners, we don't necessarily understand the personal implications that it takes some business owners to be able to run their business. And really, what I'm trying to say here is that our body image, the way that we treat our bodies, and the way that we, as women, show up for our families, show up for our businesses, show up for our clients, really stems from the mindset that we have. So when I was thinking about this episode and I was thinking about how I have been directly affected in my business because of my body image, I started to wonder how many other people were like that too. And when I thought about it, I was thinking that maybe it was just me. Maybe I am just alone in this. And then I realized that even though every single woman on this planet is different and is complex and maybe talks about their body image way more than other people, there still are women who suffer in silence. And that's what I was doing. I was suffering in silence. And I started to realize that my relationship with my body, my relationship with my food was directly affecting my relationship with my business. And it was affecting my business because I was allowing other factors of my business. I was allowing some of the negative spaces in my business to take more control than what I wanted to give it. So let's talk about that. I think, since probably 6 or 7 years old, struggled with my body. And most of that is because of other people. And I'm trying to say a whole lot without saying a whole lot here because this is very raw for me. But I was sexually abused by a family member when I was in middle school, all the way up until the beginning of my teens. And so I always had a negative image of my body because I was told that I was supposed to have a negative image of my body. And so when I moved into high school, I did not treat my body nicely. I would, now that we could look back on it, I would binge eat. And so that looked like me barely eating at home, only eating enough to say that I ate. I would go all day during class, not eating. And then when I had pockets of peace, when I had pockets of time where I was by myself, I would gorge and eat. And that continued through college. That continued through me being a young mom. And it really continued up until probably about 7 years ago, when I finally realized that I was about ready to change my binge eating addiction for another one, which was going to the gym and running half marathons and working out to the point where I was eating 900 calories a day. And so I traded one addiction for another, right? It really was a mark for me that as I had walked through multiple relationships, as I had gotten married in 2015 and divorced 2019, I found myself really questioning who I was as an individual, who I was as a woman, if I was ever going to love myself, if I was ever going to choose myself as a priority over someone else. And in the height of 2020, COVID hit, and I was in a very loving relationship. And that loving relationship I remarried at the end of 2020, and it has been one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. Because for the first time in my whole entire life, I had met someone who loved me for who I was. And so there was this pocket of peace for me that I didn't have to continue to look a certain way. I didn't have to continue to feel a certain way. I could genuinely, authentically show up as myself. And I really started to work on that. Moving into 2021, when I decided to really launch my business, I didn't realize that all of this would follow me. And I laugh about it now because it's truly, I didn't realize how fast it would come on me. What I mean by that is when I started my business in 2021, I was in a really good spot. I was motivated and I really was looking for my opportunity to get out of corporate, and it came really, really fast. And so I was during that time still struggling with the gym, and I was going to therapy. And one of the things that came up in therapy was how I show up in my business. And I didn't realize at the time that all of these things that I had been carrying with me, all of the weight that I had been carrying with me, was directly affecting how I show up in my business. And some would consider it imposter syndrome, but I tend to look at it as I had a barrier, I had a wall up because I couldn't objectively see that the way in which I was showing up to my business was not respectful to myself. Because just in the same way that just as I expected everyone to look at myself from the outside in and not see any flaws, I was expecting that out of myself in my business. And so, just like binge eating, just like having poor body image, I was treating my business like I was treating my body, without respect, without gratefulness, and without working through the hard stuff in an objective manner and saying, where can I do better? Most of what the personal talk would entail would be, I'm not doing this right, so that must mean I'm a failure. I'm struggling because this is what everybody else does, and it takes X amount of time to really get a business going, but I want this to happen overnight. And so the same mind frame of me being obsessive at the gym, right? Of I need results today. And, for the 14th fad diet that I was on, I wanted to lose 30 pounds in 2 days because that's what the magazines were telling me could happen. I was taking that energy and I was feeding it over into my business and really expecting my business to do things overnight as well. And that's not fair. So, one of the other things that I wanted to mention in this is even though I've really struggled with my body image, I've gotten to a comfortable place. And it's not because now I have this amazing husband who treats me properly, but it really is because I became comfortable in the work that I was doing. I'm comfortable in the services that I provide. And when I say comfortable, it doesn't mean like, oh, now I get lazy because I can just, hang out on the couch all day. Comfortable meaning I respect my hustle. I respect all of the things that I needed to learn and still continue to learn. I respect my body enough to be able to show up and be nourished. I respect my body enough that I appreciate my mind over my physical looks. And when I got to the point of appreciating what my brain was capable of over what my body could do, a whole new world opened for me. A whole new world of peace, a whole new world of comfort. And the only way that I was able to really do that was to allow God to walk me through that. Allow Him to really be the stronghold on where I am. And I literally turned everything over. and just gave it to him and allowed him to permeate me with peace. But I also did some footwork, which was got involved in therapy, of course. But I also decided that my worth is not determined by my jean size. My worth is not determined by if I look a certain way in a picture, or if the lighting is just right, or if I have just the amount of makeup on, or if I dress properly. My worth is determined by the quality of service that I provide in my business. My worth of my business is determined by the things that I know, the things that I teach, and the things that I can take care of. My worth is also determined by how I show up for myself and how I allow others to show up within me and my business. So, if there's anything that you have taken from this, I really want you to understand that your worth inside of your business is not attached to who you are as a physical person. It's attached by the mind that you carry. And I'll share with you that when you start opening up your mind and when you start allowing your mind to have peace and you really work through some of the small t and big T trauma that I know everyone in this planet carries around, when you start working through all of that, you allow the positivity of other areas of your life to flow through there. Friends, I know that this is a little bit different of an episode, but I really wanted to share my heart with you and just know that if you are struggling and you are in a position where you feel like your body image is directly affected by the success of your business, please reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. No concessions, as always. My Instagram DMs are always open. But always remember, you are stronger than you think.